On Saturday, July 11th, there was a large sewage spill, about 20,000 gallons, that went into Kailua Bay here in Kailua, Kona. And I'm talking with Dr. Rick Bennett. Dr. Bennett is what I would have to say a water expert. He got his PhD in microbiological sciences and immunology at the University of California at Davis. And he's been working with water reclamation, and climate since 1978. And I know that wastewater is a particular focus of his, and it seemed appropriate to talk with him after the sewage spill in Kailua Bay that occurred on Saturday, July 11th, with around 20,000 gallons of raw sewage going into Kailua Bay. Good morning, aloha, Dr. Bennett.
Good morning, aloha to you too.
Thank you so much for talking with us. What's the impact of 20,000 gallons of sewage going into Kailua Bay?
Well, there are several impacts. The one that concerns people the most is the potential for infectious disease microbes to get into the ocean, persist long enough, and for that person that swallows that unfortunate gulp of water, they might get ill. The risk is due almost entirely to virus, not bacteria. The difficulty is we measure bacteria called enterococci as a proxy, but as proxies go, it's only 50% right and 50% wrong.
Well, help me understand. When you say we measure that particular bacteria as a proxy, what does that really mean?
Well, the EPA recommended enterococci, which is a genus of microbes that has about 30 members in that genus, only 2 of which are associated with human and animal feces. And the bacterium in and of themselves don't present any significant risk to healthy people. In the hospital, it's a different story. But in the environment, no significant risk. And so the presumption is that when enterococci is present, human viruses are present. But as I indicated, that's only true in about 50% of the cases. And so as indicators go, it's a bad one.
When the spill occurred, there were actually swimmers in Kailua Bay, and obviously they were told to get out of the water. So it's not really clear how long people were exposed to the worst part of the spill. If they were exposed to the spill, but it was like 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, however long it took them to swim out and get out of the water, what is the risk to them of getting sick? And I know that sewage and water can cause actually a lot of different things, ranging from a rash to some of the bad diseases, gastrointestinal upsets, etc. But help us understand more about the risk to people as you see it.
Sewage, historically, when you had sewer running down gutters in cities, was the stuff made of epidemics. That's just no longer the case. Most healthy people do not excrete disease-causing organisms. They just don't reside there passively. Now, however, if somebody has got a case of the cruise ship virus, for example, they excrete trillions of virus particles every single day, and it only takes 1 to 10 virus particles to give you that 24 to 48 hour stomach flu. So if the virus is present, and if somebody gets it in their mouth, and you don't even have to swallow much water to get one virus, just that wet, salty taste that you swallow could be it. The wastewater plume that hits the ocean is going to float on the surface and follow the wind and tide currents. And if those currents took it into the swimmer's lane, the risk is higher. What we've seen in the last several months is that nearshore current there by the palace tends to go over near the beach where the swimmers enter. So there may be some concentration going on. But I will be surprised if we even hear one case of stomach flu as a result of that spill. And the reason I say that is our saving grace here in Hawaii is the fact that we have intense ultraviolet sunlight. We have relatively clear water, and literally in the matter of less than an hour, the sunlight is a great disinfectant of ocean water. And it's that reason that we don't have far, far more swimmers' illnesses, given all the leaky sewer pipes and 50,000 cesspools in our watersheds.
What about the environment? What's going to be the impact to the environment of 20,000 more gallons of sewage water going into Kailua Bay?
Raw sewage and the particulate matter that's in it can settle out on the coral reef, and that can be quite harmful. There's actually now some supposition that sewage microbes, not human microbes, but sewage microbes, may be detrimental to some corals, although that's very tentative at this point. The larger issue is the decades upon decades of nutrient leaching that's going on. So we're leaching from septic systems, we're leaching from cesspits. Now, unfortunately, the infrastructure along the Leahy Drive, that is the sewer, leaks. Almost all sewers leak. And they leak more and more as they get older and older. And as was suggested just recently, the pipe that broke there by the palace was an iron pipe that may be 50 to 60 years old. Now, I don't know what people were thinking when they put iron in sand near the ocean, but I think we all realize you put iron in the ocean, it's going to rust. It's going to rust very quickly. And that's what is happening. I've been told by the Director of Environmental Management that most of the sewer line on the Leahy Drive needs to be replaced.
Yes, Bill Kucharski has said that to me as well.
Yes, and we know that that sewer line has a problem with infiltration because the wastewater now is getting too salty to use the wastewater for irrigation of plants and grasses and shrubs and things. And so we've got to fix those leaks. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to reuse that 1.8 million gallons a day, which could be used to irrigate landscapes so that people don't have to use our precious fresh water.
When I talked back to human health, when I talked with Dr. Miskovich, he said that regarding the workers who were cleaning up the spill, just because of COVID-19, he would recommend that they be tested for COVID-19. But for the workers cleaning up the spill, do you see dangers to them, to their health, for some of the viruses and bacteria that may be present in that sewage water?
Well, it's certainly always smart to be cautious. When I started working with wastewater over 30 years ago, I asked that question. If this material is so dangerous, do we see evidence of illness in sewage workers? And the answer is no, we don't see evidence. And so the material is not getting ingested in sufficient quantities. The aerosols that get made when the water splashes around don't present any particular respiratory threats. It's just when sewage contaminates drinking water, and then we drink volumes of that contaminated water is when we have the greatest risk. Most swimmers don't intentionally swallow seawater. Now, as a former surfer, I know when you wipe out, you swallow a lot of water. And so it's actually the surfers are kind of considered the canary in the coal mine relative to ocean microbes. But even amongst surfers, we don't see a lot of evidence of gastrointestinal illness. We see more evidence of skin infections due to Staphylococcus aureus. It's in wastewater, and it's also in the sand on almost every beach in the world. And so it's not uniquely a wastewater problem. One of the things we're seeing over the last 20 years here is our waters are getting increasingly turbid. And they're getting turbid or cloudy from algae, microscopic algae. And it's the nitrogen and phosphorus in our leaking wastewaters from leaking sewers and septic systems that are nourishing these algae. And it's the probable reason that Kailua Bay turned so dark green here a month ago.
Interesting. And again, it just reinforces the need for Hawaii County's Department of Environmental Management to, I'll use the term clean up their act, but basically get those sewer lines upgraded and replaced, because this has happened before.
Indeed. And Hawaii County is in a pickle, but every coastal county that I read about is in the same difficulty. They've ignored their infrastructure. Sea levels are rising, and we're getting more interaction with water that leaks out of sewers with the ocean. And, we've got to fix that infrastructure. There's just no question about it.